Donkey Kong Bonanza is one of the weirdest platformers Nintendo has released in quite some time, and there's many reasons for this. Let's discuss. Donkey Kong Bananza is a character action platformer developed by Nintendo for the Nintendo Switch 2. It is the second first-party title to be released for the console since its launch in June and was the one many people hoped would spruce up its launch window offering. I think it will. I think Donkey Kong Bananza will be a success for Nintendo. It has all the elements a game like this needs to be a crowd pleaser. It stars a well-known character, it's visually beautiful, the ways it lets the player interact with the world are unique and satisfying, and when it's all working, it sings. The game follows DK and his young protege Pauline on a quest to reach the center of the Earth. A group of nefarious apes have stolen the world's banana hoard and are attempting to use them to power a machine deep in the planet's core. DK and Pauline are initially pulled in different directions. DK needs to delve into the planet's crust to stop the apes, while Pauline longs to return to the surface. A twist of fate reveals that Pauline's best path home is to accompany DK on his quest, and she reluctantly agrees to join him.
My greatest wish will come true?
Together, they're a force. Pauline's singing voice possesses wild, transformative abilities that turn DK into powerful, souped-up versions of himself. These transformations grant him special, temporary powers for as long as Pauline can keep singing. He rides on his shoulders for the game's duration, calling out enemies or points of interest that might be hidden from sight.
DK, something's there!
The things that Donkey Kong Bonanza gets right, it gets very right. Playing as DK is a great deal of fun. He is the definition of the phrase, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. He is a pleasant wrecking ball in a world of paper doors, tearing through everything in his path with a big, dumb grin on his face. All of DK's moves cause some level of destruction. His punch carves huge gaps out of the earth big enough for him to move through. He can leap into the air and punch directly downward to drill vertically into the earth. He can slap the ground to magnetically pull all surrounding gold pieces towards him or clear loose debris. He can climb almost any surface, Breath of the Wild style, without breaking a sweat. He can roll to pick up speed and also use it as a kind of mid-air dash. He can pull chunks of the earth from the ground and carry them over his head for protection. He can also swing them around or throw them as weapons. He can also throw chunks at walls to create staircases of his own making. There's a lot he can do. There's a pleasure in all the destruction, and that's the key that unlocks all of Bonanza's other joys, making every swing of DK's fists feel not merely good, but deeply satisfying for the 20-odd hours of the game's campaign is no mean feat, but Nintendo has managed to pull it off. There's a desire to excavate every space, hunting for gold, tokens, fossils, and bananas to either hoard or spend at interlevel stores. Bonanza makes treasure hunting easier through a couple of measures. The first allows DK to sense nearby objects by slapping the ground and creating a kind of sonar wave that highlights concealed bananas, fossils, and treasure chests. The second is through treasure maps, which can be found stashed inside said treasure chests or purchased from the stuff shop with gold. Finding or purchasing maps will place markers on your map screen that will tell you exactly where each level's desirables can be found. Another of DKV's many destructive pleasures are the new Bonanza animal forms. Unlocked in different levels, these new forms supercharge DK in new and exciting ways. His basic Bonanza power simply makes him a bigger, angrier gorilla, far stronger than he is on his own. Others, like the ostrich form, allow him to glide long distances. There's quite a few to unlock, and each of them changes your traversal abilities in ways that speedrunners will adore. Bonanza also offers 2-player experiences based on your preferred skill level. Guided mode places many more markers on the screen to help you find your way through the golden path and myriad side activities on offer. Normal mode will only highlight the map marker for the golden path, leaving you free to explore and discover at your leisure. Either way, there's plenty to do once you get off the beaten track, and bananas are plenty to uncover. As in Super Mario Odyssey and its collectible moons, DK is falling over bananas everywhere he goes. There's bonus levels, challenge rooms, and short puzzles that all reward in one or more bananas. And if that weren't enough, Cranky Kong is lurking somewhere in nearly every level, ready to bribe you for a nani in exchange for a long lecture. Then there are the fossils, which come in several varieties and are worth tracking down to exchange for new costumes in the shop. Unlike Super Mario Odyssey, where costumes were merely cosmetic, Bonanza's costumes provide level-specific stat buffs. One level that contained a lot of poison damage had clothes that increased DK's resistance to it. This extended to DK's ties and Pauline's outfits as well. These buffs run the gamut from increasing the length of DK's transformations to even a gold multiplier. I like this change a lot. It makes costumes desirable beyond the aesthetic, and it gives you a reason to get out there and explore. You can also change the colour of DK's fur, and while it doesn't convey any further buffs, I do think it's neat. I've had a bit of a hard time thinking of Donkey Kong Bonanza as a traditional platformer because it has far more in common with modern action games than it does Nintendo's usual 3D Super Mario fare. Though there are certainly some sections that require DK to land a series of precise jumps, most of the time the game is happy for the player to tunnel through levels to reach hidden collectibles. The headlining terrain deformation is without a doubt Bonanza's great double-edged sword. Smashing through the world around you to reach desirable collectibles frequently feels great and surprisingly freeing. Hidden banana detected? Just smash your way through the rubble to reach it. No platforming or pathfinding required. On the other hand, terrain deformation lives in a constant war with the camera, getting stuck or hiding DK from view when you've chopped up the landscape too much. This is particularly frustrating in rapid-fire sections of gameplay like boss fights, which frequently tear up the ground around you or require you to break the ground to use against them. This became particularly frustrating in the game's latter stages, where certain levels and boss fights became quite confined. Mining with abandon would also create the odd drop in performance, the frame rate momentarily juddering as the system tried to keep up with me as I hollowed out mountains hunting for gold to buy Pauline a dress. There are guardrails to stop especially wily players digging their way to victory in every case. Some levels are encased in a layer of unbreakable iron or stone to keep you contained, so it's usually clear when the game wants to tackle something in a specific way. Something else that surprised me was that Bonanza doesn't put up much of a fight. If you're purely sticking to the Golden Path, Bonanza's primary questline, you'll fly through its entire campaign in 15 to 20 hours. With only a few exceptions, most of its boss fights are a triviality, over in minutes and solved with a judicial application of DK's transformation abilities. It feels like a game aimed at a younger crowd than most players might be expecting. This is rammed home by the use of Pauline as a co-op character. In the hands of another player, Pauline is so blisteringly overpowered that she takes boss fights that already feel a bit easy and makes them completely one-sided. She feels like less of a meaningful addition to DK's toolkit and more of a get-out-of-trouble button for parents when the kids get stuck and need help progressing. This action game hammer smash approach is further illuminated by what might be one of a precious few skill trees I've ever seen in a first-party Nintendo game. While the upgrades for DK himself are mostly useful, there are quite a few upgrades that feel outright worthless or otherwise lacking in value or pizzazz. I upgraded several of DK's animal forms out of obligation, but it honestly felt like the effects were negligible. I'm confident I still could have blasted through the campaign without ever upgrading any of them. If you're going to include a skill tree, every part of it should feel useful. Most of this tree simply doesn't. These rough edges are worth commenting on because it's still quite rare that Nintendo is happy to release a game that hasn't been meticulously polished. The hope, it seems, is that the sense of enjoyment derived from smashing through the game's many levels will outweigh any frustrations over occasional jank. There is a litany of nods to Donkey Kong's past littered throughout the entirety of Bonanza, and it's pretty clear where some of its greatest inspirations have come from. Its similarities to Super Mario Odyssey are pretty obvious. Its shop fronts full of items and costumes have been lifted straight out of Mario's last big 3D adventure. Bug-eyed dual characters evoke the look of N64-era Rare NPCs. Rare's classic characters like Cranky Kong and rideable Rhino Rambi are littered throughout. Games like Donkey Kong Country, DK64, and even, believe it or not, Diddy Kong Racing are clear touchstones. DK's Bonanza transformations also recall the animal forms he could take in Donkey Kong Country and have similar power-ups. It's an interesting twist on the old formula, and it works quite well in 3D. In fact, Bonanza displays a reverence for Rare's version of DK that, if I'm honest, I didn't expect to see. After the Super Mario Bros. Movie and the subtle changes Bonanza makes to the character's design, I thought perhaps Nintendo was finally ready for DK to step out of Rare's long shadow. It hasn't been a second-party Nintendo studio for over 20 years at this point. I couldn't blame Nintendo if it felt like it was time to fully rework the character and make him their own again. But on the contrary, Bonanza feels like Nintendo openly acknowledging Rare's enduring, transformative contribution to the character's legacy. When people think of Donkey Kong games today, they don't really think about the 1981 arcade original anymore. They think of challenging side-scrolling platformers from the Super Nintendo era. And you can tell, because Nintendo had retro studios continue cranking out Donkey Kong Country games that adhered to Rare's house style well into the Wii U era and beyond. Bonanza feels like a tacit admission from Nintendo that Donkey Kong Country so fundamentally altered DK's DNA that it became a new foundational text. Nintendo can't get away from it, and here, Rare gets a clear, Formal tip of the hat. And now, DK gets to sit alongside Mario in franchises that both offer peerless 2D platformer experiences paired with strong 3D titles. Donkey Kong Bonanza is an oddly misshapen game from a company not known for making oddly misshapen games. This isn't to suggest that it isn't good or worth your time. I think it is. But I don't think it necessarily ascends to the heights of Super Mario Odyssey either. In fairness, that's a pretty high bar to jump over. I understand now why Nintendo avoided questions about whether the Odyssey team was behind Bonanza for as long as it did. It didn't want to set unfair expectations. I don't agree with that decision. I think it sets an ugly precedent that places a greater importance on the marketing campaign than the people actually making the game, but I can at least track Nintendo's thinking. Thus, Bonanza doesn't set its sights too high. Its edges are rougher than many Nintendo fans are probably used to, and the creative and technical swings it takes are solid, occasionally inspired, but never revolutionary. Its search for a way to make DK compelling in 3D is a success, if not a complete one. However, its heart is both big and in the right place, and that counts for a lot with me. Play.